if I just set up Tarim, there's no answer to it once there are 3/3s. 100% correct. And that was the way to play the matchup out. And now I think he's running into another matchup he's comfortable with, given the amount of AoE in his deck. For those of you who did not see that Shaman deck, it's a deck that contains Lightning Storm, double Maelstrom Portal, double Devolve, and there is no deck against which Devolve is better than a Murloc Paladin, from what I've seen. It's better against the aggro versions, definitely better against aggro, but it's also pretty solid against the mid-range lists.
Yeah, I mean, you can play around. That's what I want to say. You can't play around the Devolve when you have Kozak, Spike Ridge Seed, Blessing of Kings, Tyrion, all those secret, right? Redemption is actually horrible and against Devolve, because you will just get most likely a really random minion back to your hand, most likely even a Wisp. So that's definitely problematic. And the only value they can get out of the Spike Ridge Seed of Blessing of Kings if you can play it on the minion that can already attack and get instant value out of the attack. And, of course, Hex is always problematic. Don't forget about that.
There's almost nothing that's not problematic, right? Like, everything just eventually punishes you. The biggest swing cards, I guess, in the Paladin's deck are that equality that we see here. Because once the Jade Ball gets rolling for Kolento, things get a little bit awkward for Pavel unless he can clear. So Sunkeeper Tarim to negate the board state, and Equality, Consec, Primordial Drake, those are amazing cards. The weapon usually extracts decent value. But the fact that they keep spawning totems to your Murlocs, usually that's like an equal opportunity or like the equal value. But when the Shaman has so much efficient board clears, you're falling behind in the matchup. And Kolento runs Bloodlust, as we know. So any board that he has is representing lethal very early.
Yeah, you can just go for just totems, not even play anything else on the board, and benefit from the Maelstrom Portals and still threaten the game just by having Bloodlust in his deck. It doesn't have to be played right now. Alright, we have the Stone Shaper right now in Kolento's hand, but to be active for turn 4, Kolento is pushed to use his Flame Elemental. But in this case, is it even any good? You can go for the Maelstrom Portal, trade with the Inquisitor. War Leader is unfortunately still on the board, so most likely you would like to answer with the Jade Lightning next turn, but at the same time what you can do is you can Hex, kill the Frog, and leave the Inquisitor, which will be a 1/2.
Yeah, I'm a bigger fan of just Hero Power Flame Elemental, personally, because I think what you're doing is you're not like in a rush to kill what's there. You're mostly looking to set up the Tol'Vir. This is the next best thing. Like, the second play is just play Maelstrom to get the 1-drop. But the idea is that you need to set up that Tol'Vir or that Jade Lightning, because the Flame Elemental and whatever 1-drop you get probably contests the 3/2. He cannot possibly play Coldlight Seer, it's not in the deck, and Mega Sword doesn't come out until 1 next turn. So you're probably always getting the kill on that War Leader with whatever 1-drop you have.
And also Truce of the Champions, just 1 mana and away. That's the thing when you play Paladin, you just lack an answer for turn 2 or 3, right? The only like synergy and interaction that you will have on those turns is basically the Rockfin Hunter, that it can be played on a Murloc that you played on turn 1. And this is like the snowballing effect in that deck. But other than that, you're kind of lackluster. And look at that, Stone Shaper is such a fantastic card on turn 4 against Paladin. That Truce of a Champion just does nothing.
Yeah, we saw this in the tournament quite a few times. We saw RDU actually set up he was playing Quest Rogue and set up a Tol'Vir Stone Shaper like 3 turns ahead of time, and the Paladin just lost to that one card. It just shut him down completely. And this is the power of the card. It lines up well because the Divine Shield requires they have stuff on the board. Then they need to have an extra ping, so they need 2 pings and a weapon charge to kill a 3/5. And usually you're able to get tempo while developing the stuff that sets it up. So it's very difficult for the Paladin to answer the Tol'Vir Stone Shaper. So while the card is not as widely played as we all assumed it would be initially, it's been starting to see a lot more play than we saw at first.
It's very similar to Talk Creepers, right? It's like sometimes they pop out in multiples, sometimes they're just one-off, and everyone suspected them to be like one of those meta shapers, right? But they're not.
Right.
But they're still great cards. Well, Dakota is not really the best one to play it right now. You can get not that much value out of it.
Yeah, and you're playing into what's on the board already, killing your stuff. That's the thing. You know full well your board is going away.
Yeah.
You've got the weapon and the 3/3 that can trade into your Kodo, and then the Shaman has leftover mana to do this. Worse yet is when he's got Jade Lightning, Thing from Below, to even just play Totem and the 3 cost of it. That's another possibility. There are a lot of plays Shaman has that they can make here that simply make your Kodo irrelevant.
I like the Jade Lightning though instead of the Thing from Below. Thing from Below will still have more impact on the board by being reduced to just 1 or 0 mana. Like that's the perfect scenario, of course. You develop the board at the same time with the 2/2, which is still problematic with the Bloodlust, because the Bloodlust right now is 12 damage. 12, 15, 16, 18 damage just next turn if you don't do anything with this board. So bearing in mind that your opponent will still develop the board, every single now state of whatever will be happening on the Shaman is problematic for the Paladins. At some point, he needs to take care of the entire board. And if Pavel will not do that at a critical point where Kolento can have just lethal with Bloodlust, then that gives information for Kolento. There is no way of clearing the board for Pavel.
There's also the reads that Pavel makes of the cards in hand. Kolento picks up probably one of the best draws to play here. I was going to say all the cards are a little bit overkill in his hand. Thing from Below is nice. You're not really setting up anything with this. But now picks up the best tempo play he could have gotten. And this is going into a turn where Pavel's just got complete air. Well, never mind.
Until
plans.
until this draw.
Oh, man. What a back and forth.
But still, it's not perfect. Like, there's a 5/1 and a 3/1 on the board. You can kill one, but Aya still gives you a 4/4. Alright, Noble Sacrifice can help, because it can stop the attack of the 3/1 Jade Golem, so that's okay. Eye for an Eye, not really that useful, it's not a mage class, and your opponent is still at healthy 23, so even one swing with like 6 or 8 damage doesn't really matter. And it will not even happen anyway. So
I like Repentance a lot. You're targeting all the big stuff left, right? You've seen the Fireflies, you've seen the Elementals, so you're down to the Flame Elementals, so you're down to like the Fire Ellies, the Kalimos, the Thing from Below. Those are the big things.
I think Kolento doesn't even play Seventh of Kalimos, although it's such a powerful card.
I think he's playing the actual legendary itself, but not the 5 drops.
Yeah. But no Sevens of Kalimos. When we saw the first iterations of Elemental Shamans, they were all playing Servants because they are such a powerful card. But at the same time, they are just too slow for the decks that just want to thrive on the board state, right? Well, that's a good Primordial Drake, I would say.
Yeah, talking about thriving on the board state, that Repentance setup was magnificent. That Fire Elemental got sniped down to 1 health. The only card I think that Pavel did not want to see at that point was a Jade Spirit, because it made the Jades from Aya spawn a 5/5, and then there was a 4/2 left over. But the fact that it was Fire Elemental or Thing from Below in this case basically gave Pavel a full board clear, which was pretty soul-crushing for Kolento. But he's got hexes. He's good to go.
Yeah, that's interesting. He went for the Thing from Below instead of Fire Elemental. So the plan is to have like a small charge minion in your hand, basically. That's what you gain from doing this by playing instead of the Fire Elemental for bigger output of damage on the board by 1 and clearing the hex target immediately. You still have access to some damage next turn on the same turn. All right, that's a good.
Seems about good.
Yeah, that's a beneficial use of a useless rock that you have in your hand. So there was a small like reason to play Fire Elemental last turn, just to get rid of that board state and play around like a Sun from my god, Spikered Steed or from the Tarim. But at the same time, you kind of want to bait out a Spikered Steed because you have the second Hex.
Yeah, there's a lot of targets for Hex in the matchup, but with double Devolve in the deck too for Kolento, he's got options. But now he's going to just go for the tempo plays. He's like, all right, I'm at 14 damage output. Whenever I pick up Bloodlust, I'm destroying this poor guy. I've got a lot of damage set up, and the odds of him having the Tyrion and Sunkeeper Tarim, Discover from Stonehill Defender, those are high, but I can contest them with the board. It's just really tricky because he knows there's a discovered card there in Pavel's hand.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, we have seen 2 discoveries from from the defender, and both times it was a Terran.
Yeah, sounds about like my average Paladin day.
Oh, really? I want your average Paladin day then.
Oh no, when they're facing off against me, I mean, sorry.
Oh, okay.
My Paladin days are very different, and that's a really good draw for Kolento.
Oh, that stings, man.
Didn't get much better.
Oh! Okay, this is potentially almost better for Pavel
than what was on the board at first. Oh, this is so sad. Kolento, what happened? Did you anger somebody at Blizzard? Kolento.
Awkward. That's really awkward. Healing Totem will help here. That was the Healing Totem.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Good stuff.
You can make your Fali Ellie go back to 3 HP and have a 3-2. Although it doesn't really change anything because your opponent has the poisonous gastropod.
Yeah, you lose one guy no matter what you do.
Man.
That's gonna happen across the. I guess you could always start by double attacking the 2/7 and then healing your Fire Ellie. I think that's the line of play that leaves you with the most stuff on the board at the end of the day.
The problem is you don't maybe even want to play the Hot Spring Guardian.
Can you afford not to though?
Well, you're behind on board.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's ugly.
That's tough, man. That devolve did not do what Kolento wanted the devolve to do in the matchup. But Kolento still has, I believe, the Kalimos in the deck, and that could be a big swing card if he picks it up. That's a massive minion.
This turn, if he picks it up this turn, it matters.
Yeah. One more turn, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean, it could, because it wipes the board, right, most of the time.
Okay, that's not terrible.
That's a sweet card.
Although in this case, he can't really race anymore because of the fact that Pavel did get 6 additional points of armor. Man. All right.
Oh, man, this is getting bad breaking. This is it. Like, there's one devolve left.
Yeah. 2 hexes and 1 devolve were already played. How will you tackle this if your opponent just has 1 out of like 13? That Spike Steed is insane here.
Yeah. So basically, Kolento's on the Bloodlust out, and otherwise, I think this game is pretty much wrapped up in favor of Pavel. This is a matchup that I think is rather even. I assume Kolento would be doing a lot better with the amount of AoE in the deck, but they didn't play a mid-range game on both sides. Pavel played a lot more of a control game for the entirety of the match, which gave no real value to those, Maelstrom portals and those lightning storms and devolves. It came down to hexing for tempo for Kolento. And when you're hexing for tempo when there's Tyrians in the deck, you're not particularly happy about it.
Okay, that's not terrible. If he hits, Airpower Totem.
If this rolls high on the 2 targets,
oh man, will it happen? It hit 1, the most important ones. So it's still not over till it's over, because now he can play time, but his opponent is drawing very powerful effects right now. Pavel is just nuts.
This is a very back and forth game. I mean, we've seen games go like this before, and it's kind of interesting because, like, we're now seeing the power of the AoE. But imagine a world where Pavel was developing early game instead of developing late game, right? And that Lightning Storm was there to break a stalemate. That would have been a lot more powerful than it is now, because it did okay here, but all it did was catch him up. But if you imagine a similar board state early where they're both vying for board control and Kolento AoE's down, that's a much, much stronger position for him to operate off of.
Yep.
Kolento's evaluating, can I take that 3 damage to spawn the 4-2 body?
It's actually, in this case, 9, because your opponent has Wind Fury. So every single attack is actually really impactful. Oh man, Curator. It still draws a Murloc. And probably 1 Beast.
Might have a dragon left in there.
Yeah, there's the Megazord, there's the Hydrologist, and the Primordial. No, just 1 Primordial. Okay.
Typical mid-range things. And now that little 1-drop, Spiker Steeded, is doing a ton of work. Kolento can't possibly draw anything helpful aside from an Earth Elemental. Let's do it. Can we do that? That's nothing Kolento needed. Needed some kind of lifesaver, and that was not one of them. And Pavel's going to finally equalize the series. Paladin, of course, taking a win in the series. No big surprise there. Again, Pavel's mage is actually a druid. Just look at it. It's not a mage. That is a
druid in disguise. It's like a camouflage. We don't have camouflage yet in Hearthstone, right?